you cannot control pretty much anything in this world, but you can control your reactions. And that is, to me, very peaceful because for a long time I felt like I was kind of at the mercy of my own emotions and not the master of them. And that's something that I've really been working on and living through, of how to not like fall for every meltdown trigger, because I get really bad, not necessarily panic attacks, but like autistic meltdowns. For me, trying to mediate those, navigate those triggers has been really, really helpful. And when adverse situations of whatever kind come up, you can and should take a beat and remember things like breathing and maybe having water. And if your adrenaline is going crazy, that's okay. That's normal. And it can be, I sometimes get overwhelmed by that adrenaline and like, I don't know what to do with it. It's in my body and I'm tense and I can't breathe. It's okay. You're gonna be okay. You might not feel like it in the moment, especially if there's a situation happening where maybe, you know, you can't control everything. But just remember what you can control, which is your reaction. You can control how you respond to any stimulus. And there are times when you can't access coping skills, and like, I'm autistic, right? So for me, there are times I can't access these coping skills I've worked for, because once you are, in my opinion anyway, once you're too far down in it, they're out of reach. And for me, the battle has been staying ahead of it and not letting my triggers send me into full-on meltdown mode. And I don't know. Handling conflict can be very tricky, but in my opinion, the best thing that I do for handling it is just managing my reaction. And it's a lot of breathing and recognizing that the other person, if that's the kind of conflict you're in, even if you're fighting a bear, recognize that bear maybe is having a hard day. Maybe the bear had bad traffic on the way home. Nothing excuses bad behavior, but if you remember the humanity, not for the bear, but if you try to remember the humanity of the situation, take a step back and recognize your own need for peace, you can mediate, or at least I find it easier to mediate a conflict internally. And I find the first step to trying to deal with that is just breathing and trying to do something with the adrenaline, because for me, the hardest part is I think my body makes just so much adrenaline. It might just be that I feel it really intensely, but like, it physically hurts when you're making this chemical that I don't know that much about it, but it like makes you want to move and get away from the bear. And if you're not, I feel it right in my traps, and I feel it in the tops of my fingers and down the back of my neck, and it's not a good feeling. It's not a fun feeling. But for me, the best thing to do is just to breathe, take a step back, recognize this too shall pass. It's going to be all right. My reaction and my emotion is not dependent on anything except myself. I choose what other emotions I allow to affect me. That is one thing that I've been working on as someone who has been in some codependent situations of just feeling like someone else's emotions are my emotions, and not knowing how to separate that. I think learning to do that has been a real journey. And if that's something that you struggle with too, just remember that your emotions are enough and special and strong. And just because someone else might be having a stronger reaction or a more vocal or physical reaction does not mean that you still don't have feelings and that you shouldn't honor those feelings. Just remember that you are the most powerful when you are in control of your mental state. And if someone else has the power to take away your healthy mental state, that's not good. So, I'm not licensed to give any advice. I just think that if it's something that you struggle with, things like deep breathing might really help, because they've helped me. Things like stretching your shoulders and remembering your physical container, doing like nervous system, there's a better word for it, but doing things that remind you that you're in a physical body, like just, getting into the muscles and getting into your physicality helps me, because it's like, right, I am me, this is me, and I am not anyone else, and no one else is me. It helps me to detach, because if you have been in a situation where you feel like that is difficult, then maybe that's something that can help. But again, that's just what's worked for me. It's sometimes even doing like a forward fold, just completely bending over and letting yourself hang, just let everything go. When I do it, a lot of times I tear up, but I assume at some point I won't do that anymore. But just letting it go, just letting it go. No one else's reaction needs to be your reaction. No one else's emotion needs to be your emotion. Nobody else's gut reaction needs to be your gut reaction. And if you're someone who takes on the reactions and emotions of other people, consider that maybe you would feel a little lighter and not have so much to carry if you focused on trying to stay in your own emotions first and foremost. And I think there are moments where obviously empathy is important and good, and we should care about the feelings of other people. I'm not saying to ignore them. I'm just saying don't let them become your own, because it can be very easy to, if someone is having a very visceral reaction, it can be easy to superimpose that on your own emotions, right? Like if a baby is crying, we're all, kind of like evolutionarily taught to care about that emotion. But it doesn't mean that when a baby cries, you cry. And so that's something that I've found some solace in, is, okay, that's a feeling that you're having. Okay, I'm going to manage my feelings so that I can help you to the best of my ability. And sometimes that looks like completely stepping away. And I cannot recommend that enough, especially if you're not in a place where you feel like you're in your best mental state. If you feel like you could benefit from having time alone in a hard moment, please do that. But if you're still staying there, just do things to take stock, or maybe you can't, if you get jumped in an alley, you can't like just say, hold on, let me just go to my safe space for 10 minutes and regroup. Like there's something about being able to maintain that balance and centeredness while an altercation of whatever kind is happening. Again, I have no, don't come at me legally. I don't know any of this stuff for real. This is just what helps me. If you're going through it, detach and center. And a hot or cold shower is good. For me anyway, something like going for a run or a walk, moving, stretching, even, just moving, whatever freely feels good. Oh, this is what feels good for me right now. If you do some movement, you can, at least I think you can anyway, process it physically. And I'm sure there are movement coaches and people who do somatic healing. That's the word I was thinking of, somatic, when you do things like to remind yourself of your physical container, like somatic healing. There are people who are like licensed to do that. There are people who have way more information on it than I do. I'm just sending love to anybody who maybe has a hard time not taking on the emotions of other people. And it's a skill you can work on, and it does get easier, it does get better. And what is happening says more about that person with the strong emotion than it does about you. And their emotion is not your emotion, and their reaction is not your reaction. And there's a lot of freedom in recognizing that. So I wish you peace, and I wish you centeredness, and I wish you lots of happy, healthy, joyful movement, and a good shower of the temperature of your choosing. And if you don't have the ability to get away and access some coping skills or sensory changes, hang in there, and I see you. And navigating conflict is very difficult, but you are loved. And if you are experiencing something really challenging, there are resources available for whatever that is. Even if a bear is chasing you in the forest, Google it and see. There might be something, because this video is not meant to be like intended to replace anything more serious. I'm just sending love and saying your emotions are not anyone else's, and no one's emotions are yours but your own. That's all. Stay strong. Love you.